You need to subscribe to Chargers Now as quick as possible. Why? Because the NFL Combine is next week, and we at Chat Sports are going to have boots on the ground. You don't want to miss out on any of the coverage that we are going to have for you. And we're also going to have you covered here on the channel with free daily videos all off-season long. We're going to have you covered for the draft, NFL free agency, and so much more. Of course, I'm always in the comment section responding to your questions and comments. We're a very interactive channel as well. So not only are you going to get the best coverage on the Chargers on YouTube, in my personal opinion, but you're also going to get someone who's going to respond to you when you're talking about your favorite team in LA. Thank you guys so much for hitting that sub button. Now let's get into the video. This is Chargers Now. I am your host, Will Ortner, and I think a lot of fans are wondering in LA, are the Chargers going to make a big splash in this offseason? The Chargers are obviously a playoff team that is really close, and it does feel like they are pushing their chips all into the middle right now in LA to not only be a playoff team, but potentially be a Super Bowl winning team. When we look at the salary cap space right now, the LA Chargers, they are in third in the National Football League when it comes to available salary cap space. Only the Tennessee Titans and the Las Vegas Raiders have more. That is important to note. The other two teams that are on that list, the Jets and the Commanders, they weren't playoff teams. So the Chargers have a ton of cap space available, and they have the most cap space available for a team that already made it to the postseason. Clearly, the Chargers have the money. If GM Ortiz wants to use it, he definitely can. Will Jim Harbaugh and Ortiz be able to come together and find a way to get some big-name free agents in LA? Because right now they are being linked to multiple big-name free agents that I think can help push this team not to being a postseason team, not to being a team that can win the AFC West, to being a team that can win the AFC and potentially be a Super Bowl champion. The first player that I want to dive into and look at, I actually do think could end up being a fit with the Chargers, not necessarily just because of what Jaelan Phillips does on the defensive end, but because, well, his old head coach is now the offensive coordinator in LA, and he could be someone in Mike McDaniel that goes over to Jim Harbaugh and goes over to GM Ortiz and says, hey, we need to add Jaelan Phillips into our edge room. Moton of Bleacher Report had this to say on why Phillips could be a big fit for the Chargers. When healthy, Jaelan Phillips has shown Pro Bowl potential. He's registered at least 5 sacks in 4 out of 5 seasons. Last year, the 26-year-old played 9 games with the Miami Dolphins before they traded him to the Philadelphia Eagles. He recorded 5 sacks and 35 pressures and 7 tackles for a loss in 17 games. In Los Angeles, Phillips wouldn't need to be the team's top pass rusher, though. He and Tuli would be an ascending edge rushing duo if they stayed healthy. No, I think adding Phillips to this crew is actually a sneaky good idea, and my reasoning for that is because, well, we still are not completely sure on what the plan is for Khalil Mack. He could potentially still retire, or if he decides not to retire, well, the Chargers are going to have to pay him a pretty penny, and of course, the Chargers could continue and will continue to go after Odafe Oweh, but there's a strong inclination that he may end up in Baltimore with his old DC, Jesse Minter, who is now the head coach over there. When I look at a guy like Jaelan Phillips, man, he is an efficient pass rusher. Now, he's not going to be the main focus. Obviously, Tuli would be the number one guy. But it is important to note that Phillips is still relatively young and has done a fantastic job when he has been healthy at getting after the quarterback, at being an impact player. And he did it not only in Miami, but he also did it in Philadelphia as well. Now, some of his run game ability does need to take a step forward. He's not the best against the run. That is important to note. But in this defense, he could potentially just be someone that Coach O'Leary uses as a premier edge rusher. When I look at what this team can be, I still feel like adding in a guy like Jaelan Phillips, he could come in and really help push this crew forward, and I've been very impressed with what he's been able to do throughout his career. We already talked about this a little bit ago, but it's clear that edge rusher is going to be a position of need, and that is highly valued. I know a lot of Chargers fans, myself included, would prefer that the Chargers stay with Odafe Oweh and Khalil Mack. But we don't always get what we want. There is a strong inclination, like I already said, that Jesse Minter is going to come in and poach Odafe Oweh while he's in free agency. And Khalil Mack, while I do believe that he is not going to retire, and if he doesn't retire, I still think that he comes back to LA, it is important to note that, well, injury issues are starting to happen because Khalil Mack is getting up there in age. Jaelan Phillips, I understand that he had an injury a couple of years ago, but he's still a player that can play and can play at a very high level for this team. When you look at the linebacker depth chart, obviously there's a big question mark right now on Odafe Oweh as well as Khalil Mack. And to me, when I look at Bud Dupree, that's a guy who will not be playing in the National Football League for too much longer because, well, again, he's just gotten old and Father Time is undefeated. And when you're going up against a guy like Father Time, Bud Dupree, he's starting to get less snap share. He's starting to get after the passer a little bit less. And he's starting to not be able to stop the run quite as well as he had been before. So to me, when I look at what the Chargers could potentially do here, go get Jaelan Phillips. I think he's a great option for the Chargers as a plan B or possibly plan C. Now, I know a lot of Charger fans are going to hear what I'm saying here and instantly go, Will, you're a big dumb idiot. It should be Odafe Oweh. I agree. It should be Odafe Oweh as your plan A. But we don't always get what we want in life. And so I always think it is important to have a solid backup plan. And I think that Jaelan Phillips makes a lot of sense. And there's a chance that the Chargers could get him for cheaper where they might choose to use that money that we know they have and plenty of the salary cap space that they have. The Chargers could end up using that on the interior of the offensive line and spending money that way. So Phillips could also be a way to save some money. I want you to be the GM right now of the LA Chargers. Do you want Jaelan Phillips in Los Angeles? Let me know down below in the comment section, yes or no. Make sure that you sound off loud and proud. The other big name free agent that is being linked to the Chargers is in a completely different position group. In fact, a completely different side of the ball, and that is offensive lineman Wyatt Teller. Now, Teller was previously a guard with the Cleveland Browns, and he's actually had a lot of success over his career playing guard for them, but it's not that surprising as he gets up there in age that Teller might decide to move on and look for greener pastures where, well, he can win more football games. ESPN's Adam Schefter tweeted this out the other day. Browns Pro Bowl guard Wyatt Teller, he is going to be a free agent. He announced that he will not return to Cleveland, very similar to what David Njoku did before. I think that this is important to note because, well, he wants to go to a winner. And if Teller wants to go to a winner, the Chargers are the perfect spot for him. He is someone that would instantly come in and improve this offensive line. Look, we all know that Slater and Alt, they're perfect. They're solid. The Chargers are going to do really well on that tackle position, especially if they stay healthy. But when we look at the interior, there is a lot of room for improvement. And a guy like Wyatt Teller would be easy to go and grab for the Chargers because, well, all you got to do, plug him in to this offense, and you are getting a quality offensive starter. Now, who would he replace on this line? Well, there's a couple of different spots, but I think the easy plug and play for him would be with Mekhi Becton over at right guard because we all know that Becton will not be in Los Angeles for too much longer. When we look at the PFF grades in 2025, we can tell that Teller's numbers are taking a slight dip, not too crazy though. Still a guy who would be a quality guard in the National Football League. When we look at the last 4 years for Teller, it is important to note that he is getting less and less snaps, and of course, that does mean as well that some of his skill set that he's had, it is diminishing to a degree, and you can tell that his overall pass blocking grades and run blocking grades are continuing to dip year after year. It is clear to me that Teller is regressing, so that is something that is important to note. Is he still an upgrade from what you have? Yes, he is an upgrade from what you have. But is Teller necessarily going to be the person that is instantly going to fix and change this offense? No, not necessarily. If Teller is going to go for the correct price, well, then I don't see a reason why the Chargers should not at least kick the tires on him. Could also be a great position to go get a guy like Wyatt Teller and then draft Vega Ione from Penn State. And then what you can do is have Teller teach Ione how to be a pro's pro. It's not a bad option as well. That being said, if your plan is just to go get Teller and instantly that interior offensive line is now fixed, that would be incorrect. Who do you want in LA? Let me know down below in the comment section. If it's Jaelan Phillips, type JP. If it's Wyatt Teller, type WT. And if it's neither, make sure you go down below and type NO. We do have a weird other fourth option. If you'd like to type WO just because you love Chargers now, you can do that as well. But just make sure that you let us know what your opinion is down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. We had a lot of fun making it here at Chat Sports. Producer Sorrel and myself always love keeping up with the Chargers, and you want to keep up with the Chargers as well. We're rapidly closing in on 2,000 subscribers, so make sure that you hit that sub button so you don't miss any Chargers news or rumors throughout the 2026 offseason. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video, and bolt up.